there's like three people, innocent people in the forest, get kidnapped by like a militia, and the militia is telling them they have to kill this other innocent person. That if one of the three people of that group of three people doesn't take the gun and shoot this other person, then they're all going to get shot and die.
Welcome back to Out of the Box podcast, where Steele and I, your host, get to talk about outside the box ideas. Today, we're going to be talking about some moral dilemmas and just kind of talk a little bit about what our thoughts are based on the situation, what it means to be ethical. I think those are going to be some of the themes that are going to be coming up in our conversation. But before we actually get started, I want to invite you guys to subscribe to our channel, because our commitment to continue providing ongoing content will continue, and it's going to be more interesting thoughts, outside the box ideas. So I really invite you to subscribe to our channel and also write a comment about what you liked about this video. So without further ado, Steele, kick it off with some moral dilemmas.
All right. So, just give a disclaimer. None of these moral dilemmas are my own. I'm just taking examples that I remember from my ethics class. So I'm not claiming ownership of it or anything like that. But one of the ones that I remember is a moral dilemma where people become trapped in a cave. So they go into this cave, and there's a fairly large group of people, and all of a sudden, for whatever reason, they have to get out of the cave, and there's a bomb. They have a bomb with them that they can detonate if they want to. And what happens is the cave starts flooding, so they start rushing out. But one of the people in the cave is really kind of a lot bigger than everyone else, like a fat guy or a fat person or whatever, and he gets stuck in the hole. The only exit from the cave, he gets stuck in that hole, and now the group of people is trapped behind him, and they can't get out. Now there's a bomb they have, so if they wanted to, they could blow him up to escape before the cave floods and everyone dies from drowning. And the fat guy would live because his head is sticking out of the cave. So it's like, yeah, what would you do in that situation? Like, it's like the cost of one person's life, and you have a whole group of people that could drown to death. So
Mm.
that's that's a crazy one, right?
Yeah, no, yeah. I think it goes back to the value of life, right?
Yeah.
Or actually, I think there's different types of ethics that can be involved in this, because to your point, it's sacrificing one person for the life of many, right? So we can get into conversations about, well, who is this guy, right? Is he like a leader in something, or is he a professional, or who are those people inside the
Yeah,
cave,
it changes because
right?
let's say he had like the cure for cancer and only he knows it, then it changes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it could change, yeah, that easily. Like, or you could say like, well, it was a group of scientists who were stuck in the cave, and the guy that got stuck in the hole was, you know, just somebody that was tagging along, or the tour guide or something.
Or maybe he was like a criminal his whole life or something. There's
Oh
like
yeah, yeah, it could be the
all kinds.
opposite end.
Yeah.
So at that point, you say, well, is it worth killing the person stuck in the hole
Yeah.
for the many?
Is it? Yeah. And it's like, and then if you believe that killing is wrong no matter what, then you're really in a tricky situation, right? Because I feel like in that situation, if you believe that killing is wrong, in all instances, like let's
Yeah,
say,
because
yeah,
indifference is the same thing, right? Like if you just don't do anything and you say like, well, I'm not gonna take a stance of whether killing the man or killing the group of people.
yeah,
Well, indifference is still going to kill someone,
yeah. So
right?
does that, by that logic, then what you're saying, if you take a step back and don't do anything, but people still die. The group of people will still die, and you will die if you don't do anything. It's true that you're not actively killing someone by detonating the bomb and killing the fat person or a guy or whatever. But does that mean you're automatically like not responsible for everyone dying? Like, does inaction make you not responsible for killing the people if you let them die? I guess that's a good question too.
Mm. Yeah, because you have a choice, right? You could either kill the person and then come out with a group of people before it floods, or you could just let the guy live and you just die because you didn't do anything. Like it seems almost very binary in
Yeah,
this stage, right? It's either you kill the person or you don't to get
yeah.
out.
There's no other
There's
option.
no other solution to actually survive. The cave is closed off. The water's starting to come in, and there's no other way out other than that only exit.
Well, and what if, like, there was, I mean, one could argue that, well, let's put the bomb on the wall of a cave or a different part of the cave, and hopefully that'll
Yeah,
make us be able to escape. But then what if that makes the cave collapse in on you? And
yeah.
yeah,
Or you could even say like, well, yeah. Well, what if that kills everyone?
yeah, exactly. So it comes back to the same problem.
And again, like, or maybe what if it doesn't do anything?
Yeah, yeah.
Like
What
let's say for example, like the bomb just blows up. That was your only bomb, and you put it in the ceiling or something, or you put it on the side
oh
of the
yeah,
cave,
nothing happened.
and it just like blows up,
Yeah, like
but
fireworks.
yeah, it doesn't do anything. Like,
Yeah, you're in
and now
trouble.
you just wasted a bomb right there.
Yeah, that's a tricky one. So here's another tricky one. You've heard of that. We talked about this one before. The trolley dilemma, where you have two train tracks and you have one person on it in one train track, and you have a group of like 10 people on the other train track, and you have a lever that can make the train go hit the one person on the train track or the group of people on the train track. Which way do you make the train go? You know, it's kind of similar because you have a group of people versus one person.
Mm.
You know? So I think it comes back to the same problem, right? I mean,
Yeah,
like,
it
yeah,
comes back to the same problem of killing someone,
one
right?
killing one
Because I
person.
think
Yeah,
I think deeply rooted in our culture is the promotion of life, right? And so it almost seems to go against essentially what one would choose or prefer, right? One would prefer like, oh, there's an open aisle where nobody's there, right? So I can just move the trolley in that direction and it doesn't hit the group of people.
yeah,
But in these scenarios, it's life over life, right? Yeah, of course, in one example, there's more lives, right? But it's still life over life. And so at that point, there's maybe other aspects that can be taken into consideration. But let's say you are, like you said, you are the operator of that trolley, right? It's coming full speed. You can either pull it forward or back. If you pull it forward, it hits the big train. If you pull it back, it hits that one person. So what do you do, right? So it's choosing at that point now, do you want to choose the majority over the minority?
well, you know what? I just thought of a third option. Like, what if, I just thought, like, what if you pull the lever to hit one person, but then as soon as you do that, you run over and push that person out of the way so they don't get hit. You save the group of people and that other person.
Yeah,
Or,
but
yeah,
let's say for example that it's going full speed and you don't have time.
yeah. So,
You're the
oh, yeah, it's
operator.
like
You're
you're like a
sitting right there.
pile
You're watching everything happen in front
of,
of your eyes. You either have 3 seconds to pull it forward or 3 seconds to pull it back.
oh, see, most people I feel like in that situation, they would get mentally trapped, like they wouldn't know what to do, so they wouldn't act. And there's actually an experiment done on YouTube by this guy called Vsauce, and he actually tested this for real, but he didn't actually have anyone in danger. He made it look like it though. And a lot of the people were indecisive when it was happening. There's just so much pressure, at once. Because it's a huge decision. I mean, if you think someone's gonna die, like your brain's like, I don't know what to do. So sometimes I think people might not act. They just might not have enough time to process it,
Yeah,
like in real life. But
dude. And but I should people be prepared to make moral decisions like this, because I think about this, like policymakers, politicians, they have to be tactile, right, to what's going on in their community. But sometimes I'm sure, they're faced with decisions like these, or for example, police officers,
Right.
life death situations where it's like, what do I choose? And that's why there's been controversies of like, oh, somebody shot, this person, or, you know, maybe because of misjudgment, or, on the spot, just kind of rush, right? But like with these moral dilemmas, it's
It's hard. Yeah.
it's almost like you have to process it. Like if I was there, like you said, maybe I would just, you know, decide like on one and then just hope for the best, right? Because at that point, you know, you don't know, like maybe that one person you saved could, like you said in the previous example, have the cure for cancer.
Right.
Or maybe like the other group, you know, might have had something so to offer to the world. And that's, I think we're getting into, well, what are they going to offer? Like, where can I maximize the least damage,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. It's like
Where can I maximize so that more more life is promoted
uh,
and less damage is taken?
yeah, you're trying to take the least destructive option, and it's almost like measuring the value of life by taking that approach, and specifically
Hmm.
by how much value someone has to offer the world. So it's an interesting kind of way to look at it for sure. There's speaking of that, what you're talking about, the shooting and stuff, like there's another moral dilemma like that where you have people in a forest and there's tourists. I think it's something like that. I'm kind of butchering it, but there's like three people, innocent people in a forest, get kidnapped by like a militia, and the militia is telling them they have to kill this other innocent person. That if one of the three people of that group of three people doesn't take the gun and shoot this other person, then they're all going to get shot and die. So it's like, okay, what do you do in that situation? You have to shoot one innocent person to save all three of you. Are you willing to go that far? And some people argue, like, is you pulling the gun, does that make you responsible for killing that person? Or let's say you did a different way and you had one of the soldiers in the militia pull the gun for you and shoot the person for you. But just because you didn't have your hand on the gun, does that still make you responsible for killing that person?
Mm. So what you're saying is that like the innocent person's still going to die, but whether you shoot him or the other soldier shoots him,
Yeah,
like the innocent person's still going to be shot, right? Is that what you're saying?
right. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, because I remember in our ethics class we were talking about that, and it came up somehow where, but then we started debating about, well, if you're not even holding the gun, are you still responsible morally for killing that person? Like, let's say you told one of the soldiers to do it for you. You're not holding the gun, and you didn't pull the trigger, but you told the soldier to do it. So, like, does that
You
still
gave
make
him consent. Yeah.
yeah, so does that still make you morally responsible, even though you didn't pull the trigger? Yeah, it's a hard question.
Yeah, I well, if you say no at killing the innocent person, all three get shot, right? All three people,
Yeah,
all three people that got captured.
right.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, to some degree, like the consent of allowing somebody else to shoot the person, I think still holds you accountable to having killed the person, right?
Is it because
It's
you
almost like what we were talking about earlier, like the indifference. Well, the water is gonna kill them, or like you can decide to kill people, right? At the end of the day, it's sometimes we allow time to pass, thinking that time will fix problems, right? But sometimes during maybe a shorter amount of time, we can actually take decisions that can get us to fix problems even faster. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, I think the more you rush something like this, you're probably not going to make the wisest decision, maybe, or maybe you will. Maybe when you're forced, you'll make the most logical decision. But even making the most logical decision, does that make it the moral decision? I don't know. Um, and another thing, like going back to the soldiers and the people in the forest, like if you have three people who get shot, if you say no, don't shoot this one innocent person. So it's like you see
Well, how about this? How about
one
how about if you have the chance to talk to the innocent person? Let's say like, hey,
where they
so they captured you two, and what if you have consent from the innocent person to actually be shot to save the other three people's lives?
yeah, like
Then
they
at that
telling you
point,
to do it,
if you tell the police officer or the police officer, the
right?
soldier to shoot him, then you had consent from the person to be shot.
But not if you believe that the universal moral law that all life is important, because then like
Mm,
then you dive into like suicide, the ethics of suicide, the ethics of euthanasia, the ethics of all of that. And that opens up a whole other can of worms of ethics.
yeah,
But real quick
yeah.
though,
Like if people want to die, well, like have them die. Basically, that's kind of
yeah.
like where it's going.
And so one thing I thought of like is if you tell them to shoot you tell the soldier to shoot that one person, and if you're arguing that you're still morally responsible because you told the soldier to shoot it, even though you didn't pull the trigger, well, then doesn't that also, and by that same logic, make you morally responsible for not acting and saying no, don't shoot him, and then the soldier ends up shooting all three of you? Because in both of those scenarios, you didn't pull the trigger, but your decision caused the soldier to pull the trigger and kill someone else, whether it be one person they killed or three people they killed. So it's like almost like in that situation, not acting, you're still somehow are you still responsible for pulling the trigger? Because in both cases you're not pulling the trigger, but the soldier's pulling it for you. But I don't know, you see what I'm getting at? Like
Yeah,
it's like, does it apply though? I guess my intuition,
like if you say yes to killing the innocent person, you're telling them to shoot
yeah,
the person, right?
you're not
But
pulling the
if you tell
trigger,
the officer no, well, they're gonna shoot you and two others, right?
right? So
So
in both situations, you're not touching the
whether
trigger.
you say yes or no, it's still gonna cause somebody to get shot by the
Yeah,
soldier.
you're responsible for two other lives. And if you hold the truth of like the moral rule that all life is valuable, you're responsible for your life too. So you're not only killing two other people, but you're also committing suicide by saying no, don't kill this one person. So it's like that's the moral dilemma that really has me caught up. Because just like no matter what you do, you're doing something morally wrong. That's what it seems like.
Yeah, that's what it seems like.
But is it?
I think one could overpass the hurdle by justifying something. I think one can only get through this by justifying things. Like because we've seen it through through history. I mean, the concentration camps during what was it, World War II? I
Yeah.
mean, it was just crazy like what people were doing, but it was almost peer pressure. It was like, well, I have to kill these people, I have to persecute these people, otherwise I'm going to get killed myself.
Right. Yeah. Fear.
It
Yeah.
was that fear of like, well, do I kill these people? And so what they started doing is justifying in their head. It's like, well, these lives really don't matter. They're just, like they're not even human. So that's what they try to justify. It's almost like what's told about abortion, like they're not even human. They're not even beings yet, right? And so I think a lot of people can overpass these hurdles, and I'm saying this objectively. A lot of people can overpass these hurdles because they're able to justify it in their head
Yeah.
that it's morally
They
right.
say that bigger evils start with smaller evils. Smaller evil leads to horrible things. It always starts with small justifications. Like you justify it. The first time you start justifying is when you start going in a downward spiral, and then before you know it, you don't even like you wouldn't recognize yourself anymore if you went back in time. Like
Yeah.
that downward spiral sucks you in because it just like you said, it starts with justifications and then it just grows and grows. And even the Bible talks about how mankind will get so lost in his own sin and will sin for so long that he will begin to justify his sin, and that is when he's no longer can be reached because God's word can't reach him anymore because he's already justified what he's done. And no matter what you tell him, he's just stuck. You can't get through to him anymore.
Mm.
You know? He'll always find
Yeah,
a
it's just yeah, because we can honestly like justify almost anything, you know?
you can't.
Like if we really, you know, there can be like moral holes in our beliefs, but we can still find a way to justify it, right? And to some degree, it's like let's say for example, somebody that doesn't believe in anything, they can say, well, well, this religion says to not kill them, but I want to kill them. So,
Mhm.
then I'll do it. And so they'll justify it, you know, to fit whatever means they're trying to achieve, right?
Yeah, because we're all biased in some way.
Mm. But to put it back into context of the examples, like for
Mm.
the one about shooting the people, there's almost like no in between. There's just like you either say yes or you either say no. You have 20 seconds to think about it.
Yeah, what if you try to like stop? What if you try to attack the soldier with a gun or try to take the gun,
Yeah.
but then you'll get shot and then everyone will probably get shot. So if you're outgunned, might
Hmm.
have a fighting chance. Matter of fact, that might end up being the only moral thing to do because, like we said, if you say no, you're committing suicide and killing two other people. If you say yes, you're only killing one person. So if you go by axe utilitarianism, then killing one person is the moral right thing to do. If you go by
But
deontology,
what if you try to fight the police officer, and then or the police officer, I
soldier.
keep saying the soldier, and he ends up killing all four people, the innocent person and the three others.
Exactly. So it's like, yeah. So, but I mean,
But I mean, to
maybe you're
your point, I think that might be, what's morally right, because you're still fighting for life, right?
yeah,
You're
you
still
might be
fighting.
failing. Like even if you fail, it's not your fault that you failed. You tried everything you could do, so maybe that justifies it morally. You know, is that kind of where you're getting at? Like,
Mm. Yeah, and it makes me think of this one saint. Uh it's from De Montfort, and he is a martyr saint, actually. So he was taken into a concentration camp, and what they would do during these concentration camps, they would line him up, and then the general will come out and choose people randomly to just incinerate them, to just kill them, like to burn their bodies. And it could be, whatever he felt like, oh, you're gonna die
the random.
today and you're gonna die today, right? So that's what his ideal was. And to his point in his head was that, well, it doesn't matter what random order I choose them, they're still all going to die. So might as well just choose randomly and have it be a fun game for him, right? That's what it was for them. But this one priest, right, you know, was courageous enough to take the place of this young man who was going to be killed, right? And so what they did, you would think like, well, isn't he supposed to be promoting life? Why is he taking the life of another person? Like, why is he choosing to take the spot of another person who's essentially going to be killed, right? But I think there was so much greatness in that, you know, in the fact of choosing another person's life for your own life, right? Because it's almost like self-sacrificing.
Yeah,
I think that's what our parents do. They give of themselves, at least, the majority of parents, they give of themselves so that their children, can blossom and can grow, right?
exactly. Yeah,
And so to some degree, it's a self-sacrifice. And I think if one's self-sacrificing themselves, then could there be a moral place where you did the morally right decision?
Yeah, could that turn it around and make it a moral decision? Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey,
Because I mean, I think it goes back to what we were talking about with Dr. Greenaway, that one of the things, in politics and life, humans want to be right. They want to make the right decisions, right? And I think he was clear with that. And so with these moral problems, we want to make the right decision. But sometimes we just have to take a decision because there's no morally right or wrong, apparently, at the first glance, right? And so if there's not time to really mature the decision or really discern where you need to go, then you just need to walk somewhere, take one decision. Like you said, well, maybe I attack the soldier, and maybe that causes him to lose his gun, and then I can grab it and run with it or something,
yeah, yeah.
because you can't just go back and shoot the soldier,
Mhm.
or can you?
Well, you could, but if you value life, then
Well, maybe you could just shoot him in the leg, then
that's true. Yeah.
that way he can't run after you guys.
Yeah, and my final thing on that is like what you're saying reminds me of what Professor Greenaway was saying about how being indifferent is also immoral, you know?
Mm,
So like not choosing, that's kind of like I think that's what you're kind of getting at is like not choosing can also be an immoral act, maybe. You know? Something to
yeah.
think about. But yeah.
It's so interesting, man.
Yeah, it's
Well, I guess we'll end it off there. Just kind of linger, and now everyone who's watching, if you come to the end of this video, we want to invite you guys to write down a comment down below. Let us know what you thought about the moral dilemmas. Is there some sort of solution to one of them that you might have thought of before? We would love to hear about that in the comments down below. And until next time, we will talk to you soon. Take care.